Okay, so hi everybody. It's Mike Writer 74, and this is the latest episode of the Talking Balls podcast, a weekly snooker podcast. Comes out every Wednesday, and my co-host, I can just see in my top left here, is Lee. If you want to say hi, Lee.
Hi everyone, it's great to have Phil here. We're going to get a great insight tonight, so welcome, Phil.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good evening, guys.
I've been building up for this, you know. You can't have an announcer on a podcast and do a low-key announcement. You can't introduce somebody low-key when this is what they do. So Lee, we haven't rehearsed this, Lee, have we? But I think we need a bigger builder. I think we need a bigger hello, don't we? So I think what we need our guest today on our podcast, the one and only announcer Phil. It's Phil Seymour.
I'll take that. Thank you, guys.
Oh, I didn't even practice that. We'll get some applause on there. We'll get some applause on the track.
It's really funny. I announce people. That's what I do. It's my job. But I did a tour for the World of Sport Wrestling. We did on ITV a couple of years ago, and it was really funny because I got to the first one. Like, oh, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that, and there'll be a guy behind the curtain, Phil, to announce you.
There's
going to be a guy to announce you, and then you'll come down the runway and into the ring. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. But then I started thinking, it's the first one of the tour. We've never toured this before. I know ticket sales have gone well, but that's actually a bit scary because I'm coming out on my own into an arena, and I might get booed, I might get knocked.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, oh God, that's actually a little bit worried. And the arena was like the ring in the middle, big runway ramp down to it, and there was these big screens playing episodes from the TV series while everyone came in and got settled. And then the lights went down, the music from the TV show started, and then this guy's like, "Will you please welcome to the ring, your World of Sport Wrestling ring announcer, Phil Seymour." And I kept these curtains thinking, "Oh, please, dear God." And the players just went, "Way!" And I'm coming down to all these kids high-fiving me, and I was like, "Oh, this is brilliant." And I got to the ring, and I'm like, right, where's the steps? Oh, I must be on the other side. So I went down around the ring, and I'm high-fiving all these kids as I went round. I'm thinking, no, there's no steps. No, there's no steps. And I got all the way around, and no one had put any steps at the ring.
Oh, man.
And I'm looking at this ring thinking, how the hell am I going to get in there with the dinner suit on? And I'm like, I'm just high-fiving all these kids. High-fiving. I'm thinking, someone bring me some steps or a chair. And eventually someone ran out with a chair, jumped on the chair, got in the ring. And I was like, thank God. But yeah, so that's like the only other time I've been announced. I had a nightmare. So thank you.
Oh, man. Oh, well, hopefully that one was an easy one for you. A nice little easy one. A easy red over the pocket for you.
Absolutely.
It's great to have you on, Phil. It's, I think you're a really interesting guy. The more we read up about you, and anybody listening will be able to find out more about you. And I think what we like to do on these is to, we can read a lot. We can go on Wikipedia, we can go on people's websites and Twitters, but actually it's nice to find out about them and about, what makes them tick, what they care about, what they're passionate about. This is all about people. And obviously you're here, and anybody who's listening to this won't necessarily see what we can see, but you can if you see the YouTube. But obviously you're in your hotel room and you've come over to Leicester. So what's the next few days holding for you? What you're up to?
I can't wait for this. I arrived today, got COVID tested, so I've got my green wristband on to say that I'm good. And yeah, the next 3 days I will be announcing the players out at the Matchroom Live British Open at the Morningside Arena here in Leicester. And I can't wait, to be honest, because I was fortunate last season that I got to do more tournaments than normal with the German Masters, Gibraltar Open, European Masters, all being in Milton Keynes. The World Snooker Tour got me into all of those, which was a real treat. But obviously no crowds. So it was just really strange. And what you see when you watch snooker on TV is about, 5% of what I actually do when I'm at the snooker. Yeah. So a lot of what I do is crowd interaction, warming them up, making sure they tuck their crisp bags away, making sure they clap when I say Leicester, and things like that. And obviously then I do the post-match interviews, I do the video previews and things like that. But the actual announcing the players out is probably 5% of what I do. It's the most pressure because it's live TV, obviously, so it's scary. But it's just going to be great to have a crowd back in. And it's what a week it's been so far. I've been watching it on TV like everyone else, and you know, he's had everything. There was John Higgins 147, Mark Allen and Rianne. Let's not get into that one too much.
Yeah.
But it's been great. You know, the action, the amount of deciding frame thrillers has been tremendous. And I can't see that. You know, that's not going to finish. It's good. That's going to go right through the weekend. So we've got tomorrow. We've got the 3rd round and the 4th round. So they play. We've got a morning and afternoon session, which is the 3rd round, but an evening session, which is the 4th round. And then Saturday, we've got quarterfinals in the afternoon, semi-finals in the evening. So for the players getting to the final, they're going to play twice tomorrow, twice on Saturday, and then on Sunday night. So it's just, thick and fast action. So I'm expecting it to be pretty hectic, to be honest. So that bed right there is going to get used tonight for Sunday night. So I'll be getting a nice rest.
It must be nice, Phil, just to be back in the venue and round about the players. And, you know, it must be a great feeling just to be back.
Oh, it was great. You know, the last tournament I did was back in like February, March, the Tour Championship over in Celtic Manor. So that's been a while ago. You know, that's like 6 months ago now. And I got here today. I parked up at the hotel, dropped my bags in, went down had a walk down to the venue because it's like 10, 15 minutes away from here. And I'm walking down and I bumped into John Higgins. And he's looking amazing. He's looking really, really good. And he was talking.
He's been spinning, isn't he?
He must be dizzy. He took his AirPods out and he's like, Phil, how are you doing? I said, yeah, I'm good. I said, you look amazing. And he said to me, I didn't realise this. Obviously, myself and Sean Murphy did Snooker's Biggest Loser earlier in the year. And he said to me, he said, well, I've seen you and Sean turning up looking better and better at each event. He said, and I sort of thought, right, I'd best do something about myself here. So I didn't realise that. I didn't realise that sort of John had paid me attention. But he's a cracking guy. And saw John went down to the venue and within about 2 minutes, I've bumped into Jill Douglas, who's like, oh, Phil's there, we'll get to the business end. Stuart Bingham, Mark Williams, Stephen Hendry, Steve Feeney, you know, Mark King, all these guys. And it's just like straight away. And then all the World Snooker Tour team, the media guys. And it's just, it's like the last 6 months has not happened. You know, straight away, you're back in your little snooker family. And it really is great because they're a really good bunch. So it's, it's a real pleasure.
So can we pull a headline out of this then, Phil, and say, you know, I devote my 147 to Phil? Do you think that's what we can do with John? Because you were instrumental in that, really, when you think about it.
Absolutely not. That was class, though. What a way to get the tournament underway. I mean, and I know we've had Championship League, but to get the season proper, as I think a lot of people see it underway. You know, there was a lot of sort of dissenting voices, I think, before the British Open. Oh, it's best of fives and that kind of thing. But the action this week's been amazing. And that, to start it off with a 147, I mean, that's ridiculous, really. It was just pure class from John, but I expect nothing else from him, to be honest.
Yeah, and it was the very first frame of the live coverage.
Yeah.
That's the first frame we saw.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, does it, really? So
yeah, it's classic.
Well, I was saying to you, Lee, wasn't I, the other day, I said, well, for any of the new people who might have been watching it for the first time, because they've seen a bit of build-up, they've got an ITV4, it's on mainstream TV. If that's the first thing they see, they're spoiled, aren't they? You see the 147 in the first frame. That doesn't happen that often. And
it makes it look that easy, doesn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes it really easy. The great thing for me is the ITV4 events are brilliant. You know, I think the coverage they give snooker is superb. You've got full on-site presentation team. Jill's a real heavyweight when it comes to sports broadcasting. You know, let's not take that away. You've got Rob Walker doing the interviews with the players. You know, and then the likes of Stephen, Alan, Neil. You know, they really do put a lot in. You've got the guys that do the video montages. That they do such a great job of it. They package it up really, really well. They get rewarded by getting brilliant viewing figures. The viewing figures ITV4 snooker gets, I think it's like the best viewing figures that ITV4 gets.
Really?
Full stop. But yeah, it's a lot more than Minder gets. They get really, really good figures. And I think what some people need to remember sometimes is it's not just sort of snooker fans that ITV4 are aiming at. They're aiming at people who watch TV and might want to watch the snooker. That works, and I think this format works because it's quick fire. And I've said from the start, you know, you look at the season, and it's now you've got a real variation across the events. So you've got the shootout, which is absolutely completely crackers. one frame matches. You've got the British Open, which is best of fives, right through to before the quarterfinals. You've got the home nations, which all start off best of sevens. And then you've got things like the World Grand Prix, which is the top 32 in the world. You've got the Players' Championship, top 16 in the world, longer format matches. Tour Championship, top 8 in the world, longer format again. And you've got sort of the whole spread of everything. And then, of course, the Masters, the UKs, the Worlds, and then the foreign events. And for me, you've got something for everyone. You know, and I don't particularly watch cricket. I don't watch cricket much. If there's a really exciting series, an Ashes series, I'll watch it. But I will watch a bit of T20. Yeah. And I watched a bit of the 100 that's on at the moment. Because they are a little bit different, a little bit faster paced. And, you know, it's not for the purists, but, you know, purists watch the UKs, watch the Masters, watch the Tour Championship, watch the Crucible. You know, watch those events. But just sort of accept that there's something for everyone. I think we need to attract more younger viewers to snooker and a younger audience. And I think things like this will do that. So
can only be good, can't it? It can only be good.
Of course it can. And like I say, has anyone been let down this week? It's been fantastic. No, it's been great.
We spoke about this the other night, Michael. We're saying about people want a quick fix.
Yeah,
their sport more often now. You know, your T20s and your shootout, and everything's sort of geared towards a quick fix in sport now, rather than a test match that can go 5 days and you can end up with a draw.
You see, for me, I think in snooker particularly, similar to cricket, there's space for all of it. That's the beauty. Snooker isn't just a 4-month sport. It's not just a sport that happens in 4 years. It is a sport that runs for a large old chunk of the year, really. I think it runs for like 3/4 of the year, near enough. So what you've got in that calendar is space for a good selection of everything. And like I say, if it brings a younger audience into the game, then brilliant. If it gives ITV4 more viewers because it's a bit faster paced and because they can see 2 matches on an evening instead of just 1, then brilliant. Because the more that the likes of ITV4 get better viewing figures, the better that is for snooker, because the more they'll put into the sport. And, you know, they've got now, ITV4 have now got, I think, 5 events, because they've got the British Open, Champion Champs, then the Kazoo Series, World Grand Prix Players and Tour Championship. So they've now got 5 events, which is brilliant. And what that shows you is there's an appetite for it to grow. That's terrestrial TV, bear in mind. And, you know, that's massive. Eurosport do a great job. Please don't get me wrong. I watch the Eurosport coverage. I love it. I think it's fantastic. But it's not terrestrial. You can't underestimate the difference in potential viewing figures. There's something on ITV4 or BBC, the potential for viewing figures is tremendous. It really is. So the fact that ITV4 as a terrestrial broadcaster is supporting snooker and supporting it and growing what they're showing is fantastic, you know, and it really is good.
I was talking, and it reminds me, I mean, I was struck talking to a few of the players we've had on here where, you know, you think of the Gods of Snooker program that came out, you think about that era, you know, the 80s and the 90s, and almost as if that was the golden period. But actually, a few of the players I've spoken to have said, no, this is the time for snooker. They've been like, we've got more tournaments, we've got all the work that's gone on since Barry Hearn's got involved, the professionalism of it, just the how slick it is production wise, how many different new players coming from different areas. They were kind of saying the theme was, yeah, we can look back and we can see some legends from the past, but actually snooker's really getting bigger now. And I was quite struck by that. I thought that was an interesting view.
I think, it's got to be balanced as that. Obviously, I'm far too young to remember the 80s and 90s. It's got to be balanced by the fact that when I was a kid, there was 3 TV channels, and then there was 4 TV channels, and then there was 5, then there was Sky, and it's the world and the landscape has changed. Okay, so you are never going to get another 85. All right, it will never happen. It just won't ever happen. So people saying, oh, well, it doesn't get the viewing figures it did. No, of course it doesn't. Nothing does. Nothing gets that. A royal wedding and funeral gets that. That's about it. Okay. Nothing else does, because now I've got a Skybox and I've got about 483 million channels on there that I can watch. Okay. My 14-year-old son very rarely watches actual TV because he's too busy flicking through YouTube videos one after the next.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
You're never going to get those viewing figures. What you've got to look at is the position the sport's in as a whole. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the tables have come on. I think the cloths have come on. I think, you know, a lot of that side of it's come on. I think that the broadcast quality's come on. And actually on TV earlier today, they were saying in commentary, I think it was Dave Hendon or Phil Yates, and they said that if you look back at the shots of the tournament from 1988, from the Crucible, those shots are every other shot now.
Yeah, they're average.
Yeah, they're just like normal run-of-the-mill shots. Whereas back then it was like, wow, that's incredible. And now it just be like, yeah, decent pop. You know, and you look at it and you look at some of the shots. I can't think what the tournament was. Was it the German Masters where Judd just started pulling out wonder pots out of nowhere? And he did the one, it was the green, the long green that came back off the top cushion and just stopped to the brown.
The white just stopped on the brown.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I can't think who was in the other chair. Was it Barry Hawkins? I think it was Barry.
It was
on the table, and you could see Barry was he's like laughing like this. And you know, shots like that, you look at them and you think, wow, that's something else. And the great thing is I can show that to my 14-year-old son. And he can look at that because he does physics at school, and he can go, huh?
How did that happen?
That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, well, it happened. And you know, it's brilliant. And like you say, the actual quality and the number of tournaments there are now, and the amount of prize money that's involved, and everything else. And I think the great thing now, we've got the likes of Kazoo coming in, sponsoring the Kazoo series. It's not just betting sponsors, the same as we had
that's good.
Sponsors, and then it moved on to betting sponsors. And you know, it's the betting sponsors are brilliant. In my opinion, it's brilliant. They're putting money into the sport, you know, and we need that. But it's great to see a bit of mixing up coming, which is it's really good. And I think that shows the sport is in a good place as well, because it's attracting them. So yeah, long may that continue, really.
Yeah, but Barry Hearn and his team have got to take a great deal of, you know, credit for how the tour is now. You know, before Barry Hearn and his team came on, it was sort of dying a death. But he's been fantastic for the tour.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, you know, Barry. I've got to know Barry a little bit through different things that I do, not just snooker. And I've got the utmost respect for the man. You know, you look at what he's actually achieved in his life, and it's phenomenal. You know, it really is. Not just in snooker, in boxing, in darts, in Fishermania, which I MC each year, which is huge. There's like 10,000 people at that. It's a fishing match.
Wow. Yeah,
you know,
incredible.
It's amazing. It's Sky's longest running event, longest running continuous event that Sky have covered, because they lost the Premier League for a year or two, so they've had it for like 28 years or something like that. And it's incredible. You know, the things that he's done and the know-how that he's got, and I think in some ways it's actually quite sad that he's retired. I know he's still involved. I don't think Barry could ever actually retire fully. It's not in his nature, but what he's done is he has left the structure and the team in place now. You know, with Steve Dawson and the other guys that are involved. And snooker's just going to push on from here. It's only going to get better and better. And it's, you know, it's so great. The structure's in place now. It's very well done.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, and a shout out to the guys on the Talking Snooker podcast. You know, there's plenty of space for more podcasts, and we're good friends, I think. But they had Barry Hearn on not long ago, and I was really interested in that one. And one thing that really struck me was that he said about, you know, sometimes he can come across abrasive or dismissive or whatever. And I don't know if you saw it or listened to it, but I remember this particular part, and he just said, "I'm getting older. I haven't got loads of time, so I'm going to be I'm going to be picky about how I use it." And it was almost as if to say, if somebody's wasting my time, or if they're messing about, or if it's not really doing it for me, I haven't got time to muck about. Yeah, I thought, do you know what? We wait until that point in life to start thinking that way, but that's not a bad way to think.
That's right. The first time I ever did live television, my first ever live TV was Fishermania, and John McDonald, who MCs the darts now, used to do snooker. John did Fishermania as well, but he had boxing to do, I think, in Liverpool in the evening. So they'd said to me, look, can you come down in the afternoon and do like the updates to the crowd and then the presentation at the end? And I said, yeah, brilliant. Went down, and I was sat having a cup of coffee with Barry in the tent there, in the hospitality tent. And we're chatting away, and I'm getting to know him a little bit. And I used to do a radio show, and I'd interviewed him on the radio show a few times, but never actually met him. And we're chatting away and getting to know each other. And got up onto the stage, and I was like, right, okay, live TV, first time ever. I'd only ever done pre-records before, so it was like, right, I've got to get this, got to nail this, get it right. I'm on the stage, I've got a microphone, I've got an earpiece in, I've got the producer's voice in my ear, and he's like, cue this, cue that, cue this. And he says, coming to you in just a moment, Phil. He says, just get ready, Phil. And Barry leans over to me, and he says, whatever you do, Phil, don't freeze. And his voice in my ear immediately goes, you, Phil. And I was like, I couldn't do Fishermania at Cumnor Fisheries. And I was just like, we finished it, all went great. And was coming off the stage at the end, and Barry just looked at me and he went, well, you didn't freeze, Phil. And I thought, you absolute git. No, it's great. But last month I did the Sports Stars fishing, which is for ITV4, the JVD Sports. And it's brilliant. Target Dart Sports Stars fishing. We have Sports Stars from right across, do it every year. It's a brilliant do. And the night before the fishing, we have a captain's challenge, which this year was archery. And the captains have a challenge, and that then dictates who gets to pick where they fish on the lake the next day. And of course, Barry is the captain of Team Matchroom. So he was the last captain to introduce, right? And I'd done Fishermania the week before, or the weekend before, like 3 days before. And one of the guys from Matchroom said to me, he said, do you know what, Phil? He said, all the years we've worked together, I've never known you get a word wrong. And I was like, thanks, you've just killed me there. I mean, you know I'm going to completely nose something up now. And I introduced everyone. We had Joe Joyce, we had the world champion Terry Harper, the boxer, Pamela Cookie, former British netball captain,
right.
You know, some real great and good of sport. And for Barry, I'd worked out an introduction where I was going to, I said I could introduce him as the husband of who trained the winner of the Gold Cup, or bred the winner of the Gold Cup. I could introduce him as the father of the world's top promoter, Eddie Hearn. And I introduced him as, I said, please welcome I think president of Matchroom Sports, but I called him Eddie.
Oh,
I said it, but I didn't even realise I'd done it. So everyone started laughing. Everyone started laughing. Barry just went round and goes, I'm not Eddie. And I was like, oh no, of all the people pronounced wrongly, but we all had a laugh, and it was all good fun.
Which would have been brilliant if it was been deliberate, wouldn't it? You could have just gone, well, you were never going to get the straight treatment from me, Barry, not this time.
So many people seem to think it was. I should have just gone to do that. But no, I'd done it at the time, so there you go.
and you've done stuff with Eddie, haven't you? I mean, is he a chip off the old block? I mean, he obviously ploughs his own furrow, but you know, he's going to have to learn a lot from his dad, isn't he?
Yeah, well, not now. I think he's you know, he's flying high with the boxing. He really is. He's doing great things. Yeah, he's great. You know, he's you look at what he's done and how he's taken boxing on. It's
amazing.
You know, he's changing the game with the DAZN thing and everything else. He's really moving it onto another level, not just here. We're talking globally. You know, I know they're attacking Australia at the moment and giving it a go over there, and they'll succeed. You know, wherever they go, they will succeed because it's what they do. Interestingly, one of the media guys, Lewis, who used to be with World Snooker Tour, he's actually media guy for Matchroom Boxing in America now. He got a transfer over there a couple of years ago, and he's one of the reasons it's pushed on over there and done so well because of the work that he does. But no, Eddie's great. If you ever get to interview Eddie or Barry, you'll find the best thing about them is you have to do very little,
right?
Because if you said to Barry or Eddie, you know, what colour's the sky? You can literally leave them for about 15 minutes, come back, and they'll still be talking. And they promote, and it's what they do, and that is great for the sports they're involved with. It's great. One of the sports I'm involved in and love is rugby league, and for years, rugby league fans and I think club owners have been desperately trying to get Barry already involved in rugby league.
Yeah.
No, it's a great product, and if they got hold of it, they could really make it explode. And I spoke to Barry about it once, and he said, "Phil, I'm just too busy." He said, "I've got too much on already without taking on something else," which for me is a real pity, because I think he would do great things. But you know, you've got to applaud what they've both done and are doing in sport, because there's a lot of people who've tried that kind of thing and not been successful. You know, and it's no coincidence. It's not luck that what they've done has worked. It's a hell of a lot of hard work, a good amount of bloody mindedness, because you're right. You know, they can be a little bit harsh and a little bit brutal at times, but they get things done. And you know, that's how it works. And you know, they're achievers, full stop. And it is good for sport what they do. You cannot knock them.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I like you. I kind of like some other sports that, you know, get unkindly called minority sports, but you kind of think what they would do with that. You know, Speedway. I mean, they used to do Speedway at Odsall, didn't they? When the Bradford Bulls there. And it's never, you know, I watched it the other day and I thought, I haven't seen it for years, but I watched it on TV and thought it doesn't look any different to what it did 25, 30 years ago at all. The packaging's no different. They got a Grand Prix series. That's the thing that did lift it a bit, but you just kind of think it's not moved on. It's not really branched out at all. I don't know how they recruit new people in to watch it, really.
I don't know if they do. I don't know if it's just the generations going down.
Yeah.
You know, the same families always did watch it back then. So I'm not sure, to be honest. There's a lot of sports like that that are sort of struggling, but you know, that's going to happen, I suppose. And it's all right having 500 TV channels, but some of them just don't get watched, I guess. So it's you know, you've got to keep improving. If you want to get the figures and grow, you've got to keep improving what you do. Pool's a cracking example. I know it's a snooker pod, but pool's a great example. Your Matchroom are really driving pool globally, not just here again, but globally. But the effect here is you've now got a couple of other channels showing a couple of other different pool events. You know, and these are starting to spring up, and that's, as a sport, is starting to grow. I know a lot of snooker people are a bit they look down the nose at pool a bit, but for me it's a cue sport. If people start if that promotes its juniors, they start playing cue sports, they could progress on to snooker.
Absolutely.
It may be that they find their love with pool and they stick with that, but you know, if they're picking up a cue and playing snooker, I'd rather they do that than sit at home on an Xbox all day. Because they're actually doing something physical, which is great. So but you know, sports like that are really progressing, and I think sports like speed, sadly, because speed is a good sport, is they're just sort of on a bit of a decline, really, which you know, it's sad in many ways.
Well, let's get back to you then, Phil. So, you know, your views are really interesting, but you're an interesting fella. So we'd like to know more about you and, you know, about your background. And we did get a couple of questions, so I put quite a late appeal out, but they didn't fail. You know, we've got some in. We've got some friends in Finland, actually, who connect with us quite a lot in the different things we're doing with Talking Balls, not just a podcast. And I've got a guy, he puts himself down as Snooker Hare. That's what he calls himself on the Twitter. Snooker Hare, Hare, Kai Hare, his name is. And he said, and this is a good open question for us, when did you know that you would want to be an announcer or interviewer, and how did you become one?
Oh, when did I know? I don't know. I'm a sports fan. I'm a massive fan of sport. Always have been since I was a kid. I played various different sports, and I watched all kinds of sports. Rugby, snooker, boxing, one of my favourites. And then, you know, I watched all sorts of things, really. I don't know sort of when I knew. I don't think I did. I've kind of stumbled into it all, really. I used to play rugby when I was younger, and then I coached rugby. I coached the juniors, my local professional rugby league club at York City Knights. I coached the scholarship kids. And then I spent the time as commercial manager with the club, and the old York club went bust. A load of us were involved in getting a new club going. And on a first team match day, I would do whatever we needed. So I'd be in a car park with a high-vis vest on. I'd run the next week I'd do a turnstile or sell programs. 1 week I was Norris the Knight with the big helmet on, running around waving to kids. And then 1 week they needed the stadium announcer couldn't do it, as he had a back operation. So I was like, well, I'll do it. You know, we need one, I'll do it. And it turns out I was good at it. So that ended up being what I did. It was like, right, this is what you do now, Phil. You're good at this. Right. I did that for a few years, and then I had I think my youngest son was born. I thought, no, I need to spend more time with him. So I stepped away from it a little bit. I was still coaching the juniors, but I stepped away. And then one of our ex-players had gone to Wakefield, Trinity, who are a Super League club. And he rang me up and he said, look, our stadium now can't do a couple of games. Any chance you can come down? And I'm like, no, I'm not travelling from York to Wakefield to do it. And he said, we'll pay you. I said, right, when do you need me? So I did a couple of games, and at the end of those games, their chairman grabbed me and he said, look, he said, we're committed to the stadium rounds we've got this season, but would you like to do next season for us? And I thought, oh, wow, yeah, because it's, you know, it's a treat. I'm getting paid, which is nice, but I'm stood in between the two dugouts announcing rugby league, right? And it's Super League. It's at the highest level of rugby league in this country. So I'm basically stood in between two benches of players that I've watched on TV for years and admired and everything else. And not just that, I'm like a few feet away from one 19-stone bloke and another 19-stone bloke running straight into each other. And I can like literally watch it and hear the noise, and it's fantastic. It really, it's an absolute treat. Not just that, the Wakefield fans are brilliant. And I've been at Wakefield now for I think 13 years.
Impressive.
12 or 13 years, and I'm still there. I still do the games. I was there last Sunday when we beat Warrington, and you know, I'm still there. I still go and watch York. But it was that sort of got me into it. And then we had a game on Sky, and one of the Sky producers grabbed me after the game and he said, Phil, he said, with your voice, you ought to do the boxing. I said, it's funny, I've always loved boxing. It's a sport that I've always enjoyed. You know, I grew up watching Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson and Bruno, Ben and Eubank and all these. And I was like, that got the cogs whirring. And I was, let's say I was in the pub on my 35th birthday, and I'd had one or two. And I announced that I was going to ring announce a boxing world title by the time I was 40. And my now ex-partner, my ex-wife, was like, you're being an idiot. You've never done boxing. And so I don't care, I'll do it. And so I did my first, I think I did a cage fighting show like a couple of months later. I then went and got my license. You could be licensed to do professional boxing, got my license. A month or two later, did my first professional boxing show. And aged 37 and a half, I did my first world title fight, which was took 2.5 years. So
I got some to spare.
Yeah. So that was great. And other things just kind of come off that really, because a lot of people are involved in more than one sport, like the Hearns. And I did a bit of boxing stuff for Frank Maloney on Sky, who's now Kelly, of course. And that kind of got me noticed a bit. And Eddie noticed me, and then I started doing a few bits for Matchroom, and then I did a bit of sports radio as well on Radio Yorkshire, which was great. And it was a good experience because I got to interview people, which I found really interesting. And it just kind of grew from there, really. But it was weird because I worked full time. I've worked in the motor industry since I was like 18, 19, and I'd always had full time jobs, but done this alongside it, which when you've got kids is pretty tough, really. But you know, and I never, as for knowing when I wanted to do it, I never ever had any intention that this would be my job. You know, it was something that I did for a few extra quid, and because I loved it and really enjoyed it, and I still do. And a couple of years ago, I'd done odd days at the Snooker filling in, and they rang me up and they said, look, we would like to do the home nations, the whole home nations. And I was like, oh, right,
cool.
okay. Well, it is, but I'd always used holiday days to go to snooker. So it was like, it was a commitment. And I've been tossing it around in my head for a while. Could I go full time at this? And I thought, it's really difficult because there isn't enough work. There isn't really enough work to go full time. But getting the snooker's a bit of a nudge. I've just done the World of Sport Wrestling for ITV. And I thought if that gets another series, that could kick on. And it didn't, as it turns out, sadly, because that was great fun. But I'd just done that, which was great profile. And I got offered the snooker. I thought, you know, if I do this and I can sort of get some automotive training and coaching stuff in there as well, which is using my experience that I've got to fill the gaps in the sport, then this could work. And then you think at the time I had a really good job. And my girlfriend was pregnant.
So nothing at stake, really. Quite an easy time.
Sitting and took the leap, so it's and I went full time. And there's pressures with it because you've got to make sure you find work. You've got to make sure you keep busy. Which last year, I won't lie, last year was a complete nightmare for me because it was, COVID hit and my diary just emptied, and I got no support from the government. And it's one of those. But we're still here and we're still going, and it's picking back up again now, which is great.
Oh, good.
But it is a constant battle, and you're constantly trying to make sure that diary's full. I'm very, very fortunate, very fortunate to get to do or to be as busy as I have a lot of the time. There's a lot of people that aren't and that struggle and everything else, and I think the fact that I've got more strings to my bow really helps. And I've got, I don't just do one thing. I do various things, and if you can get that balance right and try and do as many of them as you can, and still actually live as well, then you're very, very fortunate, and I class myself as very fortunate.
Yeah, and is that a bit of a, I don't know about a safety net, but I mean, you established Seymour York consultancy, didn't you? So is that almost something that, if you have a fallow period for whatever reason, is that something you can pick up more of as and when you need? Does it work that way?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I look at, I'm always looking to make sure my diary's full. So it's always a case of trying to get it full with some things, and some things you get more work from, something you get less. This season in the snooker, I'm doing a lot less snooker this year.
Right.
Obviously, last year I got to do more because there's more tournaments here. But this year, I'm only actually doing the British Open and the Home Nations this year. So, the Kazoo series, that's 3 weeks' work. That I've not got that this year, so that's gone. But flip side of the coin, I'm actually busy with some other projects in automotive that I haven't previously had. So, it's a case of just trying to keep the wheels turning, that there's more work coming in to the other end of the belt, really. So, and if that works in automotive, it's in automotive. It's in sport, it's in sport. I do as much as I can do, really. But also bearing in mind, I've got a 2-year-old little girl at home. I've got a 14-year-old son. I've got a 17-year-old, and you've got to give them. I want to give them the time, and my partner as well, who, she puts up with all my nonsense, and God bless her. It's, you just try and get a balance, really. And, if you can get that balance, then you're a lucky person. And realistically, if I get the balance right, I probably actually get more time at home than people that work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday on Monday to Saturday. Because I do get like long periods. And if anything, this last year has been a nightmare, horrendous nightmare. The one upside of it all is I've spent a lot of time with my little girl. And that's precious to me. That's really precious. And I've spent a lot of time with my 14-year-old son as well, which, he's getting to that age where, is he really interested in his dad? Not really. But I've got to spend a lot more time with him. So we've done more stuff together than we probably would have done. So, I try and be quite a positive person. I think if you can take those positives out of it, then you do, and that's been a real treat of it all. So that's one good thing.
I think what's nice about what you said there is, and we're at this is going away a little bit from snooker, but that, because we're people, we've got rounded lives. But the bit you're saying there really, in a way, is that we're just at that point where the kids have just had the GCSE results. There's all the thing about uni and not being at lectures or on campus. People are worried about what the future holds. And what you described in a way is that your career path can change as you go. And if you throw yourself into things, you never know where it might lead. I mean, that's quite a hopeful message, really, isn't it?
It's really funny. My eldest son's halfway through his A-levels. My youngest son is just starting his GCSEs when they go back. His first year of his GCSEs. And I was chatting to a friend of mine whose kids just finished their GCSEs. And they were talking about appealing one of the grades. And I said, look, has your daughter got onto her A-level course? Well, yeah. I said, well, the GCSE results no longer matter then.
Yeah.
And she looked at me, she said, well, no, of course they do. I said, they don't. I said, when was the last time someone asked me what my GCSE grades were? They're irrelevant. No. The second your GCSE grades are to get you onto your A-level course. Once you're onto your A-level course, they don't matter, because once you get your A-level results, they're then what matters. Now, your A-level results are, if you want to go to university, to get you into university. Once you start university, your A-level results don't matter. And you know, I look at it, and I didn't do amazingly at school. I did all right. I did okay. I didn't do university. I didn't get a degree. But you know, I did okay. And it's not you're not defined by the grades you get at school.
No,
right?
no.
I would like, with the best will in the world, I want my sons and my daughter to do fantastically well at school. I want them to do better than I've done in every conceivable way in their life. Okay.
Yeah.
I want them to be more successful than me at everything they do. But if they don't do brilliantly at school, that's not the end of the tale.
No.
You know, you go on and you do other things and you refocus. And I think a lot of people get really hung up on that.
Yeah.
And you know, you can't. I've had senior managerial jobs where I've been recruiting people, and I've recruited apprentices, and I've interviewed, you know, people who are 16, 17, 18 years old. And the difference in the people that come in is amazing. And it's not generally relative to the grades they've achieved at school.
No.
So I actually, when I was recruiting apprentices at that age, I put more sway on, is this person personable? Will they get on in the team they're working in? Can they string a sentence together? Are they articulate? You know, have they got smarts? Not necessarily academic qualifications, but if they see something wrong, will they know it's wrong? And you know, it's
bit of common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Qualifications are important, but they're not the be all and end all. And you know, I when I finished college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I stumbled into the motor industry. I became a trainee salesperson, which I never aimed to do that. I had no interest in cars whatsoever. I ended up working my way up through the ranks, and I ended up general manager of a Land Rover dealership. I've then had regional roles in the country for the likes of Volkswagen Group, Mercedes-Benz. I now work with Porsche. I work with BMW. I work with Mercedes. You know, and it just goes to show you don't. You want to do well and get those qualifications, but if you don't get them, it isn't the end. There's other things that you can do, and it's just a case of keeping your eyes open and seeing opportunities. Absolutely.
And hunger and desire. Well, it's like anything in a way, isn't it? Hunger, desire, application almost go further than almost what's on paper, don't they? It's you kind of approach to life. That's great.
I was just going to say, when I was at school, we got given something called I think it's a record of achievement. I don't know if you've seen it. They were like a faux red or brown leather with gold embossed. And at the time we were given this, it's like, right, this is going to be the most important document we've given in the entire life. And all this. And a friend of mine put a picture on social media the other week. It's like, does anyone remember these? How important they made out they were? And I thought, you know, I've not seen mine since I was 16. Whatever happened to those, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. No, there's a big landfill full of them somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, probably.
We've got a few more questions, Phil. It's quite interesting, actually. People are engaging, and obviously you're such a well-known person on the snooker scene that they want to ask you some stuff. So this other one, we've kind of touched on it anyway a little bit with the Barry kind of Eddie faux pas, if you like, but I think they're digging for more, to be honest. They said this is another one of our Finnish friends, T Snooker. The S is in capital, so I almost called him TS. T Snooker. Have you ever made a mistake when introducing a player?
Yeah.
If so, what was it?
Yeah, I made a couple. No real howlers. I think the worst one, so touch wood, the worst one so far was at the Scottish Open. And it was Mark Allen, who I love Mark. Mark's a great character and a really, really good guy. For some reason, my brain just let me down, and I announced him as, I think, what had he won? He'd won the English, the Welsh, or the Scottish. But for some reason, I announced him as having won the Northern Ireland Open, which he would love to have won. It's probably the one tournament that Mark in the world would really love to have won. And of course, he never has. But he hung me out to dry because I announced like the great Northern Ireland Open champion. And he showed him stood in the tunnel, and he turned to his right to whoever was behind the curtain. He went, "No, I'm not." And I thought, "Oh, cheers, Mark. Thanks a lot for that." The other one, and this was actually, it taught me a lot about social media. It was my first full tournament that I'd done, which was the English Open at Crawley, at the K2 at Crawley a few years ago, which, if you remember, Ronnie O'Sullivan described the venue as not being wonderful. And I announced, I go through my introductions with the guys from World Snooker Tour before I go out and do them, so I know they're right, okay? And I had down that Kyron Wilson was the reigning Masters champion. And he wasn't. He was the reigning German Masters champion. So
Right.
somehow it had got through the net. Anyway, I announced the reigning Masters champion, the warrior, Kyron Wilson. Kyron comes on, everything's good. And I went upstairs to the media centre, and then one of the media guys went, Phil, come look at this. And then I had a tweet from a guy, and it said, don't know who this new announcer is, but he's just announced Kyron Wilson as the Masters champion. When he's not the Masters champion, he's the German Masters champion. This was brilliant because it carries on. Even my wife knows this, right? And then this has completely ruined my afternoon enjoyment of watching the snooker. And I thought,
oh dear,
really?
Wow.
Wow. And it was just like that's incredible. So I wouldn't really say I suppose it is a mistake.
Dear.
But I'd try and get them right. The other funny one was I did the boxing at Olympia in London, and it was Chris Eubank Jr. Boxing for the IBO world title against Reynold Quinlan, an Australian guy. And I went in the afternoon, we had rehearsals, and they were like, right, ITV boxing. They said, right, what we want to do, Phil, is we want you to say, please welcome Chris Eubank. And Chris Eubank Senior, top of a walkway up here, is going to come out with the Union flag, gown, shadow boxing as he comes out, and all this. And he said they were like, count in your head 8 seconds. Yeah. And after 8 seconds, you go, Junior. I'm up there. Please welcome Chris Eubank. Eubank comes out, he's shadow boxing, nice. Junior, and he came out, handed the robe over. He comes down. They got in the ring. As Chris Eubank Senior gets in, he looks at me and he went, and I thought, yes, I'm great. I go out the ring, and there's the media guy from ITV Boxing went, Phil, you've got to see this. In those 8 seconds, right, they jumped off a cliff. He doesn't know he's announcing. He's called him Chris Eubank. It's Chris Eubank Jr. And it's like, he's brilliant. And as he's going up, it's like, this tweet has been deleted. This tweet has been deleted. It was just brilliant. It was so funny. So that wasn't a mistake. That one was purposeful. But it was quite funny in the end.
What's that about then? I mean, what is it about that people are so quick to, within 8 seconds, people are so quick to point out errors and be disgraced and disgusted by what they see? What is this about?
What you've got to remember is that they're all perfect,
right? Of course.
So it's social media. It's just the way the world's gone. Social media is brilliant. Okay, my opinion. Social media is fantastic. It's a very, very positive thing if it's used right. The problem is people, not social media. Unfortunately, there are some people who just like to criticize, to belittle. I don't know if they make themselves feel better by making other people feel bad or what. I've grown a thicker skin to it over the years. It still gets to you when you see things on there sometimes, and I do worry about the next generation coming through because it's a very harsh world sometimes on there. But now with me, it's kind of water off a duck's back because I don't really, I try not to let it bother me because it's. Some of the stuff you see is so childish, so pathetic, so ridiculous.
That is never stuff they would say to your face.
No. Listen, I'm 6'1". I'm a big lad. People don't tend to say things like that to my face. All right,
You're involved in boxing.
Yeah, exactly. you don't tend to get that, but I was taught when I was a kid growing up, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
The fact that it's social media, that hasn't changed. That hasn't gone away. All right. It really hasn't. And like I say, there's a lot of positive things to social media. Personally, I think every account should have to be verified. Across every platform.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it should be made law that your account's got to be verified. It's got to be you. Your real name's got to be on there. So everyone's accountable because I've seen some things on there that are wholly illegal. You know, I've seen racial abuse. I've seen, you know, the different kind of hate that is illegal, and it's completely uncalled for. And there's no recourse for these people. Not someone not liking my snooker announcements. You know, that's like whatever. But there's some things on there that you see that are truly vile, and it affects people's lives, and that's horrible. You know, I can have a laugh about the things about me. It's like whatever, as long as my kids don't get affected by it, I don't really care. But you know, it's just social media. It's just the way the world's gone, sadly. And if people use it in a positive way, it's a really great thing. You know, and I try. I hope you guys know that I try and show the things that I'm involved with in a positive light. So I'll talk about the good aspects of snooker and boxing and rugby and these things, because I think it's really important that there are positive voices out there. You know, your podcast is one of them. You know, that Dave Hendon's podcast, Nick and Phil's podcast, they're all really positive things for the sport of snooker, and long may they continue. And I think sports need that to combat the negative that goes on as well.
No, well said, Phil. Yeah, absolutely. And you've obviously, you know, you've interviewed a lot of people. You've interviewed celebrities, sports people, entertainers, Hollywood even. So are there any, you know, is there any behind the curtain glimpses we can have about people you've met, or funny stories or situations it's taken you into? You said about being made breakfast by somebody that we wouldn't expect. We could put that as a question.
Lennox Lewis made me a cup of tea once, which was a treat. Not breakfast, let's not go there.
Okay. That was in my mind.
I was doing the ITV boxing down in London, and it was a real pinch yourself moment. I'm a boxing fan, and I was sat chatting to Andre Ward and Lennox Lewis on the commentary team for ITV. Andre Ward at the time was the pound for pound best boxer in the world. And I was sat chatting to Andre Ward. We were actually talking about our kids, and he was telling me about his career and showing me pictures on his phone, while Lennox Lewis made us a cup of tea. And I had some real pinch myself. Then later in the night, when the show was going on, and I was at ringside, and I was talking to the guys from the board of control, I was getting some scores, some judges' scores, and I'm sort of leant over, and someone pinched my bum. And I was like, "What the hell was that?" Turned around, and it was Lennox Lewis. So, just grinning at me, and I thought, do you know what? Normally, if someone did that, I'd give a volley of abuse. But he's Lennox Lewis. If he wants to pinch my bum, crack on. As I said, I'm 6'1", but he's Lennox Lewis. He trumps me. So that's sort of one of those. But no, everyone's pretty good as gold, really. I think you know, I love interviewing people. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy trying to get them relaxed enough to talk openly. I think that one of the funniest ones for me, which it slipped under the radar a bit, because people talk about the Ronnie interviews where he was talking Australian and eating crisps and that kind of thing. But one of the best ones I think I've ever done was Neil Robertson. He won the Tour Championship earlier this year at Celtic Manor in Wales. And I love Neil. He's a great guy. Really, really, really lovely guy. But he had the hair. He had the curly hair. And I interviewed him after the final, and everyone had been going on about the hair. And I'd kind of stepped away from it, thinking, I don't want to overcook that because it's been going on. Won the final, so I've got to mention it. The Crucible's around the corner. And I said to him, I said, obviously, you've won the Tour Championship. It's a big tournament. Does the lucky hair stay for the Crucible? Okay. To which I was expecting a light-hearted comment about his hair and getting it cut and all this. Right, Neil Robertson, being Neil Robertson, went on a complete tangent that left me speechless, which is rare for me. And he said, "Oh yeah, it looks a real funny thing." He said, "Because I think it was Selby in the semis." He said, "I beat Selby." He said, "So I thought the socks that I'm wearing are probably lucky." He said, "So I'm going to wear the same socks for the final tomorrow." He said, "So I've worn the same socks." He said, "But at the end of the afternoon session," he said, I played really well this afternoon." He said, "But I lost like the last couple of frames, didn't play so well." He said, "So I got to my hotel room after the afternoon session, and I took the socks off, and I changed them over from one foot to the other, just to try and kind of change the look up a bit." And I'm sat there going, am I I hearing this? He's wearing lucky socks and he changed them over. What on earth are you going on about, Neil? And that interview, or that piece of interview, just seemed to slip under the radar.
Yeah.
Completely bizarre. And I'm sat there thinking, am I actually hearing Neil Bond, one of the Australia's greatest ever snooker player, telling me a story about his lucky socks? And I'm like, this is bizarre. But that's got to be one of the funniest ones. That was just crazy.
You must, Phil, you must have been quite starstruck on occasion as well. Obviously, all through the sports, the rugby, the boxing, the snooker, you must get starstruck a couple of times.
Yeah, not massively. I think the more you work with these people, the more you realise the people. And they're not. I think Lennox Lewis was a big one. He was someone that I grew up watching. So I wouldn't say he's an idol. I was never a boxer, but he was someone that he was huge. He was like a god at the time. So Lennox probably a little bit. AP McCoy, the jockey, I met Tony McCoy at the boxing, and that was, for me, that was a real special moment because he's the greatest. He's the greatest jockey of all time, in my opinion. So that was lovely. But the other one, funnily, and it wasn't really starstruck, but for me it was a real moment. I'd done like the odd day at the snooker, and I was down doing one day at the shootout, and I went to go through a door at Watford Coliseum, and it's like a maze at the back, and I went to go through this door, and the door opened in front of me, and it was Jimmy White coming through the door, and he held the door. He says, "Oh, after you, Phil." And I went through, and I was like, "Oh, thanks very much, Jimmy." And he went through the door and he shut the door, and I stood there and I went, Jimmy White knows my name. This is brilliant. And I'd only done the odd day on the snooker, and I didn't think for a second Jimmy would know. Obviously now I've done a lot more snooker, so I've got to know him a bit better. And and it's different now. But at the time, I sort of froze in this corner, and I went, Jimmy White knows who I am. This is great. And
quite surreal.
Yeah, well, again, he's someone that I grew up watching. When I was a kid, it was Davis, White, Hendry, Higgins, obviously. And those names when I was a kid, and I watched snooker, and so he was right up there as someone that I'd watched my whole life, really. And that was a bit surreal as much as anything.
Is there anyone you'd like to interview that you haven't had the chance to? Putting you on the spot there, really, Phil. There's lots. I'd love to do more interviewing. I'd love to do more of that side of things. But I'm a big American. I love American football, and I'm a big Denver Broncos fan. I have been since I was a little kid. And John Elway, the legendary quarterback, I was lucky to meet him. I met him in London when I went to see Denver play San Francisco 49ers, and I got invited to like a pre-game party thing in London, and the cheerleaders were there. And this guy turned around, he says, "Afternoon, son." Shook my hand. I looked at him, I was like, bloody hell, it's John Elway. And I was like, wow, hi, good to meet you. And it was just like, wow, it's amazing. I'd love to speak. I'd love to interview him properly. I'd love to have an hour with John Elway. That would be off the charts, really. That would be incredible. As for other people, I think Clive Everton would be amazing to interview, like properly interview long. I mean, did you guys interview Clive? Was it you that interviewed Clive? I did it. Yeah, I did it. The difficult. The difficulty was, Phil. Sorry, Phil, before you go, the difficulty with it was, if I just say, it was very different to these ones because it was via the phone. So already you haven't got the visual clues and all the rest of it that you do with a person in place, don't you? Yeah. And it was the sound, and it was the and you kind of. You're pausing when you're asking something and you're thinking, I'm going to give time, but you almost, because you can't see them, you can't see whether they're going to give you a long answer, a short one, whether they're taking in what you're saying. But do you know what? Absolutely. What an amazing, charming man, though. Yeah. An amazingly charming, lovely man.
I'm a bit of a spod when it comes to broadcasting. So I love to watch and listen to sport, whether that's on the radio, on TV. And we were talking before, and for me, rugby union is Bill McLaren, was the voice of rugby union. He sadly passed away. Sid Waddell was the voice of darts, and incredible, amazing man, Sid Waddell. He sadly passed away. For me, Clive growing up and watching snooker, Clive was that voice for snooker.
Absolutely.
And I've been really fortunate to get to know Clive a bit from the tour and being at events, and he's someone that I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for. And I'd love an hour or 2 hours with Clive, just going through his experiences and what he's seen and what he's done. And you know, I don't think a lot of people don't realise how involved in snooker Clive was. You know, he's not just a commentator. Clive was deeply rooted in snooker.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be really interesting to get some of the stories out of Clive, because he's, you know, you're lucky, Michael, you got to interview him. But I'd love to sort of really spend a couple of hours. And I think knowing him a bit would be great for doing that, because you know you'd get to sort of draw a bit more out of him, I think. So I think Clive, John Holloway and Clive would be probably the two that I'd really love to get to grips with. But yeah, fantastic. The favourite bit, to be honest, the favourite bit with him was I had to ask him about it. He's probably been asked about it 1,000 times, but the one with Dennis Taylor where he fell off his chair when he was commentating and grabbed Dennis by the tie. I had to ask him about it. And the gratifying thing was that he didn't act bored with that silly question again. He laughed, and you just thought, "I made Clive Everton laugh. This is brilliant." Well, we had a funny moment in Cheltenham with the World Grand Prix, and Clive had just arrived, because he only came to the last few days of the tournaments by this stage. Clive had just arrived, and he'd come up to the media centre, and Phil Yates had come up, the commentator, and he'd been talking to Clive, and then Kyron Wilson had just finished his match, and so we set up at this end of the room, and for me to interview Kyron, and I just started. And then there's a courtesy in the media centre that when there's an interview, everyone else just stops talking, goes quiet. You know, and it's whether it's the journalist, whether it's me, whoever's interviewing, everyone else just turns the volume down. And so I'm interviewing Kyron, and out of absolutely nowhere, Phil Yates has just sort of walked off to leave the room. I'm interviewing Kyron, and all of a sudden, Clive sat over here somewhere, just goes, Phil! And me and Kyron both went, what? And Phil Yates stopped and goes, do you know where lunch is? And do you know what? I bet Clive to this day has no idea he did it. All right?
Yeah.
Everyone, to a man in that media room, just lost it. I'm like, what's he doing? How am I doing an interview? And anyway, the Phil told him where it was, and that was it. And we started the interview again and finished it. And it was just absolutely brilliant. There's a guy, John Hill from Coral, because Coral sponsored the event there. And John, to this day, still talks about that as being one of the funniest moments he's seen. It was just from nowhere, and he was so loud. But you've got to look back. What a character.
Absolute legend. And you, I know from your Twitter, I mean, again, you know, the beauty of social media, as you say, is something as we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. I mean, anybody who's under 25 or so wouldn't believe that, but a world pre-internet. But it enables you to find out more. So I know that one of the things you're passionate about and is about charity. And I think you put something on there about, you know, looking into how you can get more involved, whether it's charitable foundations. Have you got some ideas of something you want to do?
Yeah, I've had an idea for a little while, actually. Obviously, myself and Sean did Snooker's Biggest Loser earlier in the year, that we raised money for Jessie May, the children's cancer charity, and then also a homeless charity that I've volunteered at in York in the past. I'm very passionate about where I'm from. I was born in York, brought up in York. I live in York. I bring my children up in York. It's a beautiful place. It's a great place to live. It's back before COVID, I had this idea of setting up a junior sporting foundation, where I would raise money, be it from corporate sponsorship or hosting a few events a year or something like that. That money goes into a pot, and then we'd award grants to local junior sports people. Snooker example, Liam Pullen played at Q School this year, did really well at Q School, actually, very nearly got through. He's only like 15, 16 years old. He's from York. He's going off to Portugal to play in the European under-18s, under-19s shortly. And I know his mum's been looking for sponsorship for it. So what the foundation, if I can get it moving, I need to look into it properly. Yeah. It would be grants of probably £250. A child could apply for one grant each year, or there would be like £2,500 for a team. So say a team need a load of kit, they've got no sponsorship, they can't afford to do it. They can apply to the foundation. The foundation looks at it and says, yeah, actually, they do need that kit. There's £2,500. Or a kid who gets into a snooker tournament in Portugal can't afford the transport. There's a £250 grant to pay.
That's awesome.
The idea being, I hate the thought of any child missing out on an opportunity simply because their parents don't have the money for them to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking frivolous. I'm not talking, let's this kid's really good at fishing. Let's send him to the Bahamas to pull out some. some flash. I'm not talking that. I'm talking more. A friend of mine coaches, and I saw it when I coached rugby myself. A friend of mine coaches rugby, and one of the players, his parents didn't have the money to pay the subs each week. Okay? There's so many people in this country reliant on food banks and benefits and everything else. They pay the subs. This kid's a really talented junior rugby player. This guy, the team that he coaches, they've got kids now going off into scholarships with Super League clubs, left, right, and centre. This was a talented kid. His parents couldn't afford the subs. So he paid him. This guy paid the subs for this kid's play. That's wrong. He's his coach. He's a volunteer anyway. He shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. So if this foundation existed, that family or that kid or his coach could say, right, this kid, he's a good rugby player. They can't afford the subs. If they can't afford the subs, they won't be able to afford the transport. If they can't afford the transport, they probably can't afford to get him some nice boots. £250 can go a long way in doing that. It can pay the kids subs for the year, it can get him some boots to play in and a gum shield or whatever. And I don't know, it's an idea in my head that's kind of whirring around. And like I say, it's been a mad year. I earned no money for 7-8 months, so I'm not in a position to really put a lot of energy into something like that. But I think as things pick up and improve and get better, that is something I'd like to do. So I think over the next year or two, that's something that I'll be sort of seriously looking at and hopefully getting off the ground, because like I say, I'm passionate about where I'm from, and I'd like to see York people do well. When I was a kid, there was no one. Dame Judi Dench from York. There was no one sort of in the limelight from York, and I was at school a few years below a band called Shed 7. And Shed 7, I've got to know them quite well actually. They did amazingly. They got signed by Polydor. They had I think more singles in the top 40 in the 90s than any other band, and they did amazing things, and they're still doing amazing things now. Guy Mowbray, the BBC football commentator, he went to my school. And you see these things, and that is for me, it's what really inspires you to think, I come from York, it's a very small city, but actually look at what they've done. Look what they've gone on and done. And it's brilliant. And I want the young sports people from York to know that North Yorkshire and the county as a whole, that there's no limits on what they can do. Your parents can't afford to get you some nice boots. That shouldn't stop you playing rugby or playing football or playing snooker and that kind of thing. So, I think if kids are willing to work hard and apply themselves, that shouldn't be a boundary. So that would be the purpose of it. And that's it. It's going to take a bit of work and a bit of time to get something like that off the ground properly. But if we can raise, I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a year to give all that money away, you're just reapportioning money really. But if we can do that and just improve the life of a few kids, then why wouldn't you do that really? So
it's fantastic.
It's an idea. I will get it off the ground at some point, but it's an idea at the moment. But hey, ring announcing a boxing world title fight was an idea as well. So
exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, I really hope you get that off the ground and you get any support that you need to do that. It's just, you're right. You look around and you kind of think, you don't have to look far, do you, to kind of see disadvantage, but you don't always see it. It's not always in your face. So it's one of those, isn't it, that you just, anything you can do, it's an amazing opportunity. And who knows what people could achieve if you give them that break. I mean, that kindness at that early age as well.
It's just little bits. But I think if those little bits add up, and Rugby's an amazing sport. Rugby league's an incredible sport, and it's given a lot of people from quite poor or underprivileged backgrounds an incredible life. You know, and I've seen that firsthand with a lot of these kids who go on to play in Super League and do really and have great careers for themselves. And it really hurts me to think that there's a kid who can't play, and he might not end up being a professional rugby league player, but it will enrich his life because he's playing a team sport. Great. Yeah. And, you know, for the sake of putting on a few events a year and going, you know, listen, I'm not a name, I don't have a profile, but I've got to know quite a lot of people. And if I can use some of those connections to try and raise a few quid and get a few quid in, then, you know, if I can do that, then brilliant. You know, it's it really is. So you know, watch this space, see what happens. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll watch that space. And if you get it going, let us know and we'll obviously shout about it. It's a fantastic idea. Lee, I think we're ready for clearing the colours.
Yeah, is it going to be hard to apply that to Phil? Obviously,
no, I don't think so.
I've been nervous about this. I've heard you do this. I've been getting nervous about this. I thought I think.
No, I think you'll be okay with this, Phil. You're going to see it from a slightly different angle than maybe a player would, but I think you still get that experience around the scene to be able to answer them. So let's go for it, shall we? Let's you know, they might wobble around the pocket a bit more because it's not what you do for a day job, but we've got to allow for that. Okay, thank you. Thanks for humouring us. The yellow, let's go. So this should be fairly easy. The funniest player on tour, in your opinion?
Ooh.
Without upsetting anyone, obviously.
Funniest player. Sean's a funny guy. Sean Murphy's a very funny guy, but I've got to. He's probably Selby. He's probably Mark Selby.
Right.
Mark last year, I wasn't there, but he's a funny guy anyway. He often comes in the media centre. We often have a good crack with him. But he had a game last year, I think it was in Milton Keynes, and the last frame for the mid-session interval took like an hour and a quarter, an hour and 20 minutes. And he came out of the arena into the media centre and he went, when a player's in a mid-session, you don't, the thing is, you don't talk to them unless they talk to you. Right. Because they're in a zone already, So you don't, just let them get on. If they talk to you, then it's fine. But if they don't, you know, you don't. And he went in the media centre, he made himself a cup of tea and a coffee, and he's mixed it up. And he went and sat down on one of the chairs. He goes, so then, did you enjoy that one, lads? There's all the journalists and the staff, and they just went. It's great because he's poking fun at himself, but you know, he's a funny guy. Mark is a really funny guy.
It's funny you say that, isn't it? Because you know, one of the most prominent players of this generation has made comments about characters in the sport at the moment, and you just think, well, that just shows, doesn't it, that on the table he doesn't look like a jester, does he? But what you'll see it is a very different side, and you're not the first to say him either.
There's a lot of players, I think, who are the characters don't really come out so much. Jack Lisowski's a great character. Jack is a really good. Judd as well. I think Judd sometimes he's quite shy and it comes across as arrogance, I think, at times to some people.
Right.
But Judd's a really funny guy. He's a great guy to chat to. So when he's relaxed. So yeah, there's a lot of, you know, they're all, like I said, they're normal people and they're like a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, good stuff. So Mark Selby wins that. So the yellow's dispatched. And Lee, it's over for you for the green.
Michael, just to say, could you edit this bit out? I'm going to have to nip to the toilet. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Is that not the brown as opposed to the green?
The yellow's already gone. You can't have it.
Number one.
We've already done the yellow, Lee. You're too late.
Exactly. I will be back. I'm so sorry.
You better go, but I'm not editing it. So anyway. Oh, priceless. Let's go back to it. So over to you, Lee, then, for the green.
Okay, so Phil, your favourite venue away from the Crucible?
Oh, Llandudno. Llandudno, Wales. Beautiful. Yeah. The media centre overlooks the prom, the beach, and the sea. And you've got the Orme and the Great Orme either side. It's just a beautiful stunning place. The last time, the first time I went there, my little girl was 2 weeks old, and my partner brought her across for the last couple of days, and we walked around the Great Orme, and it's like a 6-mile walk, and there's a cafe at the top.
Wow.
Beautiful, just a beautiful. It's a real treat to go to Llandudno. So yeah, Llandudno in Wales. Yeah, no debate there. It's great.
Perfect.
Well, that was perfectly put. It didn't even go near the sides, did it? That just went straight down. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was nice to watch. That was. Okay, to the brown then. So to the brown. So the player most. So your opinion then, Phil. Really. So out of the players who haven't yet won the world title, who would you say would be the next one to do so?
You've got to say Kyron. You've got to say Kyron Wilson. I mean, Kyron is so good across every form of the game. He's come close, and he's developed the last few years. He's really developed. You've got to say Kyron, really. But wouldn't it be kind of lovely if Jack Lisowski were to have failed so many times in ranking event finals, and then he just goes and wins the Worlds?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great if he just came from out absolutely nowhere, got to the final against Judd and battered him?
Yeah.
It would just be poetry, wouldn't it? And that would be sport all over. So I'd kind of love that, actually. But you've got to say Kyron.
Yeah. Kyron's actually been a popular answer, hasn't he, Michael?
Yeah.
He has been. Yeah, I think Kyron. The other one who's come up a few times is Ding, but obviously you forget Ding in a way because he's been on the scene for a while. Yeah. You've got to say Ding. I don't know if he's fading slightly. Now, I mean, he won the UK the other year, but I don't think he's at his peak, and I don't think Kyron's yet to reach his peak. So if he's not yet reached his peak, but he's played in a Crucible final, then you've got to think his peak is winning it. So you've got to say Kyron, really. Yeah.
Do you think possibly Ding's problem might be the pressure that's on his shoulders at the World Championship? Because obviously he's got so many people backing him. Do you think that's a problem for him?
I don't think he feels it. I really don't think Ding feels it. No, he's one of the most relaxed guys there is. I really don't think he feels that. You know, when you look at what Ding's done, he's done incredible things. You know, and the pressure on Usain Bolt at his last Olympics, and you know, it all went a bit wrong for him. But do you think he felt that pressure? I don't think he did, because he's already done so much. And you know, Ding is China's greatest ever player in what is one of the biggest sports in China. So, you know, I don't think Ding's got any worries on that count, really.
No. So we're on to the blue ball question, Phil. And I always say this is a pretty thin cut to the middle, this blue. And it's a toughie. Which actor would you get to play you in a film of your life?
Oh, it's Peter Kay.
Oh, so
that wasn't a tough one.
Easy blue.
When I was a lot bigger than I am now, before I lost a load of weight, we used to get asked for autographs as Peter Kay. So it could only be Peter Kay, And by the way, he's a genius, and I would be honoured if he did. So
a genius. He's absolutely fantastic.
The man's got funny bones. There's no. I'd love to say Sean Bean or Daniel Craig, but let's be honest, it's not Peter Kay.
Right. Okay. Well, the blue was easier than we expected there, I think, Lee, wasn't it?
Okay.
Absolutely. So onto the pink. So we're all, hopefully we're gonna complete this break and clear up. We've covered a lot, really, Phil, but are there any interesting facts that people wouldn't necessarily know about you that you'd like to share?
I think it's all out there nowadays on social media. I don't think there's sort of anything people don't really know. Interesting facts about me.
Any superstitions or anything, or any quirks that you've got that might not be obvious?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm sort of weird in that way, really. No. No, I can't think of anything. I can't really. I once dressed up as a carrot. How's that? Well,
That'll do. That'll
do you know,
do.
I'll carry on that dressing up thing. Myself and my brother once won a dressing up contest, dressed as. What could two people dress up as? Have a guess. You got Batman and Robin? Yeah?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson? Yeah? No,
Yeah.
not my parents. My parents dressed us up as a pelican crossing. Why wouldn't you? We had a tube of cardboard around us, painted black and white stripes. We had orange crepe paper heads, and inside we had torches. And between us, we had another sheet of cardboard painted black and white. So there you go. I once dressed up as a pelican crossing. No one can pop that.
Sounds like your parents were looking for the easy option there.
No, I'd say my parents are just weird.
Yeah. They're very creative, that's for sure. I panicked there a little. I panicked a bit, Lee, because I thought, if Phil doesn't get the pink down, do we have to just stop it there? And we do, but then we miss a cracking black question then.
That's a good point. It'd make my life. Yeah.
Yeah, we've not, everyone's cleared them so far. So anyway, the carrot and the pelican crossing definitely wins that one, I think.
Okay.
So it was a shaky pink, but it's in. Yes.
So we're on to the black, Phil. Black ball for the clearance to win the frame. If you wrote an autobiography, what would you call it?
Oh, right. Okay. That's an easy one, actually. Because Sam from World Snooker Tour, who's one of the amazing media guys they've got, we film the previews before each day's play, and they go out on social media, and they're always done in one take. There's never any notes. It's just all out of my head. And for some reason, I have no idea why, I finish each one by saying where you can watch it. So it's on ITV4. In other countries, you can watch it on Matchroom Live. Wherever you're watching, enjoy.
Fantastic.
And I don't know where it's come from, but it's just something that I started doing. And it's really funny now, because Sam, when Sam texts me about something, he's always like, oh, are you going to be in Cardiff, Phil? ... Enjoy. So it'll be wherever you're reading, ... Enjoy.
Brilliant.
Like
Perfect.
Well, we're sneaky because we use that question. You might know, but we use that answer from that question for the episode title. So we'll have to use that then. We'll have to adopt that, I think. But you can still use it for your autobiography, of course. There's no problem with that. Brilliant. Okay. So, well, I mean, it's down, isn't it? The colours have gone. We worried a bit of the pink. The pink looked very difficult, I have to say. But with honour, you stuck at it. Persistence, you sunk it. There's no problem. We worried for a moment. We didn't have to worry. Before, you've been very generous with your time, Phil, and I know you've got a few busy days. But before you go, we did ask for people to say if they've got any questions for you. We've had one as well that's coming out, and this is a funny one, quite a cheeky one, really. And an account on Twitter, Mark Williams tweets explained.
that's the biggest job in the history of mankind. That you can't.
Well, it's ambitious, isn't it? Unless it's actually Mark Williams who writes this, so that
pretty sure it is.
Translate for us.
So no.
Well, his question was, I mean, you might see this one, but he's asked, will you and Rob Walker have a scrap for who's the best MC?
Right, first of all, there's no contest. It's Rob. Rob is someone that I look up to both physically and on a work level. Rob's amazing at what he does. I think his commentary is fantastic, particularly on athletics. I think he does a good job on the snooker as well. His MCing is at a different level when it comes to snooker. So I always defer to Rob and to Rolf Kalb over in Germany as well. I think Rolf's incredible. Regarding having a fight, now I weigh considerably more than Rob. I'm pretty confident that in a fight I would win. However, I'd never catch him. I've actually been out. I bumped into. We were in Milton Keynes. I'd gone out for a run, and Rob was out for a walk. And it's fair to say his walk is faster than my run. His legs are about 18 foot long. So if I could catch him, I'd win, but I'd never catch him. Not in a million years. I'd need someone to hold him down, pin him down, and then I'd win easy in a fight. But nah, listen. Hey, Rob is tremendous at what he does. And long may he continue doing it, because it is great for snooker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, here. And he did reply. I mean, Rob, that's nice of him. Rob did reply, and he's kind of echoed what you said. So he said, haha, considering he weighs about 6 stone more than me, that would be a non-contest, but he would have to catch me first. So there you go. You both agree.
There you go. It wouldn't happen. I wouldn't catch him. But no, he, like I say, he's absolute diamond of a man. So yeah, fantastic.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I think I'll say my bit. I'll let Lee say bye as well. But I just want to thank you, really, Phil. You've been very generous with your time. I hope the next few days are a treat and you enjoy them and you get that rapport and vibe again with the crowd. It's a pleasure watching you. We'll look out for you. Best of luck with the charity as well. I think that's an amazing idea. And it just, let's keep in touch. And
Absolutely,
it's been a lot of fun, and I'm very grateful.
No, thank you. Listen, it's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed it. I think it's great, and I've said this on social media. I like podcasts. Okay, I do a lot of driving, and when you're driving, you listen to podcasts. It passes the time a lot quicker. And if you can listen to a podcast about something you're really interested in, then you do. And I listen to Dave's podcast, Snooker Scene. I listen to Phil and Nick's podcast as well, and I listen to yours. And it's great. And I think the more that you guys can do, the better, because it's all promoting this great sport that so many people, it's a very crowded market, and the more people that are out there promoting the sport that we all know and love, then the better. So just keep doing what you're doing a great job.
Yeah, just from me, Phil, thanks very much for coming on. As Michael said, you've been so generous with your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you over the next few days and other events. So thanks very much. It's been a great chat.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you, Lee. My pleasure. And thanks again, Michael, as well. So cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Phil. Cheers.